Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and today I want to talk about banned books and the banning of books. Again, this is not the first time this topic has come up on my channel. I have tried to make this video a few times, but I never quite get it right. I may not get it right this time, but I do want to bring up this subject again because the banning of books in America has become epidemic. Everyone seems to want to ban books. Well, I won't say everyone. There is a core select group of people who are hell-bent on keeping books out of schools. And the book banning does seem to be highly focused on keeping books out of schools and out of the hands of children, because there are subjects that should be taboo to these adults who think children should not be subjected to, that if they read these books, they will lose their innocence or lose perspective of what the world should be. To get started, I'm going to point out in my description a few articles from the Washington Post that I think are very illuminative on this subject. Unfortunately, the Washington Post probably is behind a paywall for most people. There's a limited number of free articles people can read, but I don't really know because I'm a subscriber to the Washington Post. I will leave them in the comments, I said. And the one that I really want people to pick up and read, if they can, was originally published in September of 28th of 2023. The article is titled, "She Challenges One School Book a Week. She Says She'll Never Stop." This is a story of a woman in Spotsylvania County, Virginia. I happen to live in Spotsylvania County, Virginia. To my knowledge, I have never met this woman, but who knows? Maybe I run into her. But I also want to say that not all people in Spotsylvania County are this opposed to books. And the article starts off saying, and I'm not going to mention the woman's real name, even though it's mentioned in the article of the paper. She keeps 73 school books she detests in her basement. Because this woman, every week, looks for books to read that she finds absolutely disgusting, and then fill out the proper forms to get that book banned and pulled out of schools. I have to ask myself why she is devoting so much of her life to reading books that she dislikes, that she detests, and she wants to make sure that no one else will feel that detestation like her. That is something for a psychologist to answer. I cannot answer that question. As a lifelong reader, I have picked up many books that I have read that I don't particularly like. When I don't particularly like a book, I put it down and not finish I DNF it. I don't finish reading it because I don't feel a compunction to read a book that I don't like. Now, have I read a book that has disgusted me? I'm not positive on how she used the word disgust, but the answer is no. I have not read a disgusting book. I have read books that really are intended for a different audience other than me. And those are the books that I think that she's focusing on, books not intended for her. A lot of the books this woman wants to ban are LGBTQ or racial minority books. I guess that disgusts her. The idea that people of the LGBTQ community could have sex in a way that she doesn't appreciate. Who knows? Or maybe she's like that woman from the Moms from Liberty who also wants to ban LGBTQ books and has been in a threesome with another woman and her husband. Now, I don't know what goes on in that threesome. Honestly, I really don't care. It's none of my business. But she the Bridget Ziegler, bans books on subjects like lesbianism because she says children should not be exposed to that. A little bit off topic. Let's get back to this woman in Virginia. And let me give you some quotes. This book reads like a guide for raping teens. Now, it does not say exactly which book she's talking about, but I don't know of any books that is a guide for raping teens. There are books that include teenagers having sexual encounters with other teenagers, and maybe some books of teenagers with sexually encountering older adults. That is not necessarily a guide to raping teens. This book normalizes teen sex and glorifies and incites teens to have sex. This woman in my county, I'm going to have to break the bubble. Even back when I was a kid, some teens had sex. Maybe they're just talking about it. Maybe they didn't really have it. Maybe they did. I know as a teenager, I was really interested in having sex. Not getting much, but really interested in it. And does it glorify? Well, I don't know if it glorifies. It's just something all teens want to do. What is the fascination with so many of these books containing detailed sexual content? Again, let me explain this to you. People have been writing about sex all through the ages. Previously, people got really upset and did not want people reading about sex. Maybe because they were interested in the sex and not getting any. And over time, it changes. Now, this woman's focus is, again, on the LGBTQ sex variety. But let's go back in time when D.H. Lawrence wrote his famous book, Lady Chatterley's Lover. When I was growing up in high school, everyone said that was a really dirty sexual book. I never read it as a teen. I did read it as an adult. And my comment on that book is, it's really rather tame. There's not a whole lot of what I would call graphic sexual content. It does contain a woman who, empowered by her own sexuality and the choices that she wants to make for herself. And it just so happens to be that the man she wants to have sex with is from a lower class in Britain. And that, boys and girls, was a real bozo no-no when that book was written. Nowadays, or back in America, it would have been a woman going for a man of a different race. But still, it's not graphically sexual. It is actually empowering, I think, for women to read that book because it tells them you can be in charge of your own sex life. Now, would I be upset if I had a teenage daughter reading that book? Not really. It just so happened when I was reading that book, I was also shopping in a Books A Million, and this was during COVID. And there was a teenage girl. She was wearing a mask. I don't know how old she was. I'm going to guess 14, 13, 15, somewhere around there. I don't really know my teenage girls that well. But she had a book in her hand, and she went up to her mother asking if she could buy it. And the mother asked the girl, "Does this book have inappropriate content?" And the girl said no. The mother, turned to another girl, which looked a little older, and asked, "Does this book have inappropriate content?" The other girl says, "I don't think so." So it looks like the girl got to read that book, whatever it was. Now, I'm just imagining if I had that 14-year-old daughter, and she came up to me with Lady Chatterley's Lover, and she says, "Can I read this book?" I would say, "Sure, go ahead and read it." Now, maybe there were some reasons why I would say this individual girl was too young, maybe not. But I remember my 14-year-old self, and I think a 14-year-old girl could easily handle Lady Chatterley's Lover, even though that was a very famously banned book. So let's leave this woman in Virginia banning her book every week to herself, huddled in her basement with her horribly disgusting books. I think what she's doing is a disservice to everyone because, as I see it, no books should be banned. People should be free to read whatever they want to read. Now, a lot of these books that this woman in Virginia wants to ban, as I said, are LGBTQ books. I personally probably would never read them because, number one, they're intended for young adults. If you look at me, yeah, I'm a little bit beyond the young adult stage. I am also not part of the LGBTQ community. So those books really would not have a whole lot of interest to me. But what if there is a teenage boy or girl who wants to read that book? They should be allowed. The book that comes up a lot is a book entitled Genderqueer. Again, I'm not going to be reading it, but any teenager or adult for that matter who wants to read that book should be allowed to read that book. That book should be available in libraries. Now, I'm also going to go out on a limb right there. Here, I'm going to say, let's suppose that reader is 14 years old, and he or she goes to the librarian and wants to check it out. That librarian just checks out that book. I don't think there needs to be any sort of parental notification because a lot of children at that age are going to know they belong in that community. And their parents may be a little fussy about that, and they don't want to believe that their child could be part of that community. That librarian is not a policeman. They don't have to turn in that child. The child can just read the book as he or she thinks they should. That's my way of thinking about it. And so forth, yeah, do not ban those books. And so what do we do as adults when a lot of other people are hell-bent on banning books? I am going to be participating in an event for BookTube. It's called 24 in 24. It is to encourage everyone to read banned books from any era on any subject that person chooses to read. They can choose to read the current top 23 banned books, or they can go back in history and look at the historical perspective of books that have been banned in the past. Entirely up to the individual reader. Now, I am going to be participating. I have a number of books sort of selected that I want to read for 24 in 24. This is not a complete list, but this is just some of the ones that I'm going to be considering. As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. This is also be part of the Faulkner in August read along. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. That's going to be part of the post-apocalyptic book group. Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. That's also going to be in my Kurt Vonnegut book group. Fahrenheit 451. I'm just reading that on my own, or should I say rereading it because it's really a very famous banned book about banning of books. Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. This book has a reputation of being a dirty sex novel, and it is not a dirty sex novel. It does, quite frankly, talk about an older man having sexual relationship with a girl way younger than he should be considering, but it's not a sex book. The Satanic Verses, very famously banned for its irreligiosity against Islam. And of course, Salman Rushdie might still get killed for writing that book. Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. I looked it up and why it was banned. The reviewer said for her political views. I'm all for that. Tricks by Ellen Hopkins. This is, I guess, a young adult book about teens having sexual relationships and doing drugs. I'm a little hesitant to pick this up because it's not my intended demographic, but I'm going to give it a try and see what I think about it. Ulysses by James Joyce. Again, a very famously banned novel for sexual content. And the last one I want to consider is One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, famously banned in the Soviet Union for his political views. A couple other ones I'm considering, but not yet decided upon, is Scars by Cheryl Renfield. Again, a young adult, I think. I don't know how well I'll get along with that, so maybe not pick it up. A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I've heard this book is really cheesy, but it is one of the top currently books that young people are not supposed to be reading. Again, the cheese factor may put me off. We'll see. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, another very famous banned book. My best friend on YouTube, Alan, he thinks highly of this book, but I have not read it. And I'm also thinking of rereading Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. So that's how I am going to be participating in 2424 banned books. Some of these I have in hardcover right here, and some of those will be audiobooks, and some of those will be ebooks. But I hope everyone picks up some banned books in 2024. You don't have to read 24 of them, but I think it's important for everyone who takes the banning of books in America seriously is to pick up some banned books and read them and proudly display, I read banned books. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading the books other people say you should not be reading.